The rain hadn't stopped for hours. It came down in heavy sheets, turning the two-lane highway into a blur of gray and silver. Out there, somewhere between the flickering neon of a half-broken motel sign and the long stretch of empty road, stood Maggie's Diner. A place most travelers didn't find unless they were lost, desperate, or running from something. Inside, the warmth was a stark contrast to the storm's chill. The low hum of old country music played from a crackling jukebox, and the smell of coffee, bacon, and wet leather filled the air. A group of bikers sat in the corner booth, their black jackets gleaming under the dim light. They weren't loud or rowdy. Just quiet, heavy with presence. The kind that makes people notice without meaning to. Behind the counter, Anna, the young waitress, refilled a coffee pot with trembling hands. Her name tag was chipped, her uniform wrinkled. She looked exhausted, but it wasn't just the kind of tired that comes from a long shift. It was the kind that lives in your bones. Every time the door creaked open, her shoulders tensed. Every time headlights swept past the windows, her eyes flicked toward them in fear. No one in the diner had said anything yet, but they'd noticed. The trucker by the window glanced at her once, then went back to his pie. The couple in the booth near the door whispered softly to each other. The rain drowned most of the sound, except when thunder cracked and rattled the dishes. Then, the bell above the door jingled again. Anna froze. 2 men walked in, soaked from the rain. They weren't locals, anyone could tell that much. Their clothes were too neat, their smiles too practiced. One of them, a tall man with a clean, shaven face and a gray jacket, scanned the room like he was counting heads. The other lingered by the door, his hand resting casually inside his coat pocket. Anna's knuckles whitened around the coffee pot. She took a shaky breath, forced herself to walk over to the newcomers, and managed a faint, polite smile. "Evening," she said softly. "Table for 2. The tall man's smile widened, but it didn't reach his eyes. "We'll sit at the counter, sweetheart," he said. "Closer's better." She nodded quickly and led them to the stools by the register. The bikers in the corner exchanged glances, quiet but alert. Their leader, a broad man with graying hair and a scar down his cheek, Hawk as his jacket patch read, watched her closely. Anna tried to steady her hands as she poured the men's coffee, but the pot clinked against the mug. The taller man's voice was smooth, almost amused. "You seem nervous, Anna." Her heart skipped. "You know my name." He gestured to her tag, pretending it was nothing. But his grin told a different story. The jukebox flickered, the lights dimmed for a moment. Outside, lightning flashed. Anna stepped back, murmuring, I'll get your order in a sec." She turned, heading toward the kitchen, but before she disappeared behind the counter, she stopped beside the biker's booth. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Please," she said, glancing over her shoulder at the 2 men. "They won't stop following me." For a moment, the rain seemed to hush. Hawk looked up slowly, studying her face. There was raw fear in her eyes, the kind that couldn't be faked. "Who are they?" he asked in a low voice. She swallowed hard. "I don't know what they want. They've been following me since the bus stop in Lincoln. I thought I lost them, but..." She shook her head, tears welling up. "They keep showing up. Everywhere I go." Hawk's gaze shifted to the men at the counter. The taller one had turned slightly, watching the reflection in the window glass. He knew she was talking. He just didn't care. "Sit tight," Hawk said quietly. Anna nodded, retreating to the kitchen, her shoulders trembling. The diner was silent now except for the rain. The trucker had stopped eating. Even the couple near the door had frozen, eyes darting between the bikers and the men at the counter. Hawk leaned back, his voice calm but edged with steel. "You fellas from around here?" The tall man turned his head slightly. "Just passing through." "Funny," Hawk said. "So is she." The shorter man at the door shifted his stance, his coat moving just enough to reveal the outline of something metallic. Hawk saw it. So did his crew. The air changed. It got heavier, like the storm had found its way inside. "Why don't you tell us what business you've got with her?" Hawk said, his tone casual, but his eyes locked on the man's hand. The tall man smiled faintly, his fingers tracing the rim of his coffee cup. "She owes someone a visit," he said. "That's all. Doesn't sound like she wants to give it," Hawk replied. The tall man's grin vanished. "That's not her choice." A drop of coffee spilled over the edge of the counter, landing with a soft hiss on the hot plate below. The sound was tiny. But in that diner, it was thunder. No one moved. Then, from the kitchen doorway, Anna's voice broke the tension. "Please." she said again, her voice shaking. Don't let them take me. A hawk stood slowly, his chair scraping against the floor. His crew followed. The leader's gaze stayed fixed on the strangers. Well, gentlemen, he said, cracking his neck. Looks like you picked the wrong diner. The lights flickered once more. Outside, thunder rolled. Inside Maggie's diner, the night was about to change forever. The storm outside grew louder, a wild symphony of thunder and rain hammering against the windows. Lightning flashed again, casting sharp, fleeting shadows across the faces inside Maggie's diner. For a long, breathless moment, no one moved. The two strangers sat stiff at the counter, their cups untouched. Hawk and his crew stood from their booth in slow, deliberate unison, the sound of leather creaking in the heavy air. Anna clutched the kitchen doorframe, her knuckles white, her eyes darting between them all. She didn't understand who these men were, any of them, but she knew danger when she saw it. Hawk stepped forward first. His boots echoed on the tile floor, steady and slow. He wasn't young anymore, but there was a stillness to him, the kind that comes from a life spent facing storms far worse than the one outside. I'll ask one more time, he said, his tone low, controlled. Who sent you? The taller man chuckled softly, his grin returning. Now why would I tell you that? Hawk's eyes narrowed. Because I asked nicely. The man at the door shifted again, his hand brushing the inside of his coat. That tiny motion snapped something in the room. An invisible thread holding everyone still. Before the stranger could draw, one of Hawk's men, a lanky rider with a beard and a serpent tattoo curling up his neck, moved faster than anyone expected. His hand slammed the man's wrist against the doorframe, sending the weapon clattering to the floor. The diner erupted in chaos. The tall man lunged from his stool, reaching for his coat. But Hawk was already there. He caught him by the collar, slamming him against the counter with a force that rattled the sugar jars and made the coffee mugs jump. Enough! Hawk barked, voice like a crack of thunder. The man struggled, gasping as Hawk pressed his forearm against his throat. You don't know what you're getting into. The man hissed, his breath ragged. She's not who you think she is. Don't care. Hawk said, his voice quiet now, almost dangerous in its calm. All I know is she's scared, and you two don't belong here. Outside, a truck passed, headlights sweeping briefly across the diner's rain-streaked windows. The tall man's partner groaned on the floor, clutching his arm. One of Hawk's crew, short, solid, with a shaved head, kicked the gun farther away with his boot. Police'll love this story, he muttered. The tall man smirked despite the pressure on his throat. You think the cops are gonna help her? He rasped. You think they haven't been paid off already? That made Hawk pause. Anna stepped forward, trembling, tears cutting down her cheeks. Is right, she whispered. They know. The police, some of them, they're part of it. The room fell silent again, the words hanging heavy in the air. Hawk slowly released the man, letting him slump back onto the stool. Start talking, he said. Anna took a deep breath, her voice breaking. It started 6 months ago. My brother, he worked for someone bad. He was supposed to deliver something, money, I think. But he ran instead. They came after him. And after me. She looked down, ashamed, as if she'd caused all of it. He disappeared. I thought if I left town, they'd forget about me. But they didn't. They followed. Every time I started over, they found me. The man at the counter wiped a trickle of blood from his lip and sneered. Your brother stole something that doesn't belong to him. You're just collateral, sweetheart. Anna flinched. Hawk's jaw tightened. One of his bikers, a woman named Tessa with eyes like sharpened steel, crossed her arms. You come in here chasing a girl through the rain like you own the world, she said coldly. Maybe it's time someone reminded you that you don't. The tall man chuckled weakly. You think you can protect her? You think a few old bikers can stop what's coming? Tessa leaned closer, her voice a whisper. Try us. The door burst open then, sudden, violent. The wind roared inside, flinging rain and cold air through the room. Another man stood in the doorway, broad and soaked, wearing a dark trench coat. His face was hard, emotionless. Nuff, he said. His voice carried authority, the kind that silenced even the storm for a second. The tall man's eyes lit with relief. Finally, a Hawk's crew turned toward the newcomer, every muscle tense. The stranger's gaze fell on Anna. You've caused enough trouble, he said evenly. You're coming with me. Anna shook her head, backing away. Please, she whispered. Don't make me go. The man's expression didn't change. You don't have a choice. Hawk stepped between them, his broad frame blocking the way. Looks like she does. The man's hand went to his coat. Hawk's crew braced. And then, suddenly, the lights went out. Darkness swallowed the diner, broken only by the lightning outside. Someone shouted. A chair fell. The sound of a struggle echoed, quick and fierce. When the lights flickered back on, the man in the trench coat was gone. The front door swung open, the bell above it jingling weakly in the wind. Anna gasped, tears in her eyes. He'll come back, she said. He always comes back. Hawk's eyes stayed on the open doorway, his jaw tight. Then we'll be ready. The rain outside didn't stop. But something inside that diner had changed. It wasn't just fear anymore, it was resolve. And as thunder rolled across the horizon, the night stretched on. Heavy with questions no one yet dared to answer. By midnight, the storm had dulled into a steady drizzle. But the tension inside Maggie's diner remained sharp enough to cut through the air. The neon sign outside flickered rhythmically, casting the room in pulses of red and white like a heartbeat. Everyone stayed close, restless, waiting. The door that had swung open minutes ago was now bolted shut. Though it did little to make anyone feel safer. Anna sat in the corner booth, wrapped in one of the bikers' leather jackets. Shivering despite the heat from the old wall heater. Her eyes were distant, hollow. Hawk sat across from her, his hands wrapped around a steaming mug of coffee he hadn't touched. His crew spread out around the diner, keeping watch like sentinels. Tell me everything, Hawk said finally. His voice wasn't unkind, but it carried weight, like a man used to getting the truth when he asked for it. Anna hesitated. She'd been running for so long that telling anyone the full story felt impossible, dangerous. But she was too tired to keep it in anymore. My brother's name is Luke, she said softly. He used to drive trucks for a company called Crossline Freight. At least, that's what they called themselves. But they weren't really a freight company. They were moving things that shouldn't be moved. Hawk's brow furrowed. Drugs. Worse. She whispered, weapons, people. Sometimes both. A silence fell over the table. Even Tessa, who rarely showed emotion, looked stunned. Anna continued, her hands trembling. Luke found out too much. He thought if he took what they owed him, some kind of data drive, proof of everything, they'd leave him alone. But it didn't work. He sent me a message a few days later. Said if anything happened to him, I should run. Said they'd come for me because I was the only one he trusted. She looked up, her voice breaking. And then he disappeared. I haven't heard from him since. The rain tapped gently against the window. Hawk rubbed his jaw, deep in thought. And those men tonight? They work for the same people, she said. They think I know where the drive is. She looked down, tears glistening in her lashes. But I don't. I swear I don't. Hawk believed her. He'd seen too many liars in his life to miss the difference. She wasn't making this up. Whatever nightmare she was tangled in, it was real. Tessa leaned on the counter, glancing toward the door. If they've been tracking her this long, they've got resources. Some will come looking soon. Let them, muttered the bearded biker. Snake. Wayne hard to find. Hawk shot him a look. We don't start a war we don't understand. But Snake only shrugged. They brought it here. A long silence followed. Outside, the wind moaned through the cracks of the diner sign. The storm might have weakened, but something else was gathering. A sense of inevitability. Anna spoke again, her voice barely audible. They said Luke took something that could destroy them. Something about files, names, deals. She looked up, eyes wide with desperation. If I could find it, if I could prove what they did, maybe they'd stop chasing me. Hawk's eyes hardened. They won't stop. Not for proof. Not for money. People like that only stop when they've got nothing left to lose. Anna lowered her head, tears sliding silently down her cheeks. The old clock on the wall ticked past 12:45. The diner's fluorescent light buzzed faintly. Then, in the distance, the faint rumble of engines broke the stillness. Snake perked up. You hear that? Everyone froze. Outside the windows, faint headlights appeared through the mist. First 2, then 4, then 6. They weren't cars, they were bikes. For a brief, heart-stopping second, Hawk's crew reached for their jackets, unsure whether it was friend or foe. But when the first set of bikes pulled into the lot, the distinctive sound of Harley engines filled the night. Deep, familiar, rhythmic. Thunder Hawks. Tessa murmured, recognizing the logo on the front bikes. Hawk's old chapter. Anna looked between them, confused. You called for help. Hawk stood. his expression unreadable. Didn't have to. They were already heading this way for the rally. Guess fate decided to speed things up. The door opened, and 5 bikers stepped in, shaking off rain and nodding to Hawk in silent understanding. The leader of the newcomers, a tall man with a burn scar across his hand, clasped Hawk's shoulder. "Heard you stirred something up," he said. "Didn't plan to," Hawk replied. "But it found us." The man looked around, noting the bullet hole in the wall, the overturned chair, the fear in Anna's eyes. "Then I guess we'll make sure it doesn't find anyone else." Outside, more engines hummed in the distance, different this time. Smoother, heavier. Not bikers. Hawk turned toward the sound, his expression tightening. "They're coming back." Anna's heart dropped. "How many?" "Enough," Tessa said, peering through the rain-streaked glass. "Black SUVs. 3 of them." The scarred man smirked grimly. "Guess it's going to be a long night." Hawk moved toward Anna, his voice steady and low. "You stay behind the counter. No matter what happens, don't move unless I tell you." Her breath trembled. "Hawk, they'll kill you." He looked at her, and for the first time, she saw something behind the steel in his eyes. Something human, tired, but unyielding. "Maybe," he said. "But not before they regret walking through that door." The headlights grew brighter, flooding the diner with harsh white light. The sound of engines died, replaced by the muffled slam of car doors. Hawk turned to his crew. "You know what to do." The bikers nodded, spreading out, the tension so thick it felt electric. Outside, men in dark coats stepped out into the rain. Their movements were practiced, coordinated. They weren't here to talk. Inside the diner, Hawk's voice cut through the silence. "Let's make this quick." The door handle turned. Dawn, the storm had passed, leaving the world washed clean but eerily still. The roads glistened under the weak gray light as Hawk's crew rode in formation, engines rumbling through the mist like a promise. Or a warning. Anna rode with Tessa, clinging tightly to her waist. The wind biting against her cheeks. The farther they got from Maggie's diner, the more it felt like they were moving toward something inevitable. The old freight yard lay just outside Lincoln, a graveyard of rusted trailers and abandoned warehouses. The sky above it was streaked with low clouds, and the faint smell of oil and rain hung in the air. The place had once been busy. Now it was a hollow echo of what had been, silent except for the caw of distant crows. Hawk killed his engine first, his boots crunching against the wet gravel as he stepped forward. The others followed, spreading out automatically, watching the shadows, checking corners. Years of experience had made them cautious, methodical. Anna climbed off the bike, staring at the rows of numbered storage units ahead. Her heart hammered in her chest. "That's it," she whispered, pointing to one near the far end. "Minute 47. That's my brother's handwriting." The number had been scrawled on the steel door with a thick black marker. Faint, but unmistakable. Hawk nodded once, motioning for Snake to check it. The biker knelt by the lock, studying it. "New padlock. Industrial. Somebody's been here recently. Can you open it?" Hawk asked. Snake grinned faintly. "Please." Within seconds, the lock clicked open. The door groaned as they rolled it up, revealing a dark, musty space filled with crates, tarps, and the faint glint of metal beneath the dust. The smell of oil and rust was thick. Tessa switched on her flashlight and swept the beam across the room. "Looks like he was storing freight equipment. Chains, cables and..." She paused. "Wet. That's a laptop." On top of a crate, half buried under a tarp, sat a dusty laptop, its lid cracked but intact. Anna stepped forward, her breath catching. "That's Luke's. I recognize the sticker." Hawk handed it to her carefully. "Can you open it?" She hesitated, wiping the dust from the screen. It might still work. A snake found a power cord running to an old generator in the corner. He pulled the cord, and after a few sputters, the generator roared to life. Anna plugged in the laptop, and after a tense few seconds, the screen flickered on, dim, glitching, but alive. The desktop loaded with a single folder labeled LM. Anna clicked it open. Inside were dozens of files, ADOs, emails, locations, shipping manifests, and a word that made Hawk's stomach tighten: crossline. "Holy hell," Tessa murmured. He wasn't lying. "This is real." Anna scrolled through the files, her hands trembling. "These are people. Names. Some are marked as missing." She looked up, tears brimming in her eyes. This is what he was trying to stop. Hawk's expression darkened. This is what they killed him for. Before anyone could respond, Snake stiffened. "Boss," he said quietly, pointing toward the road. A black SUV had just turned into the yard, its tires crunching slowly across the gravel. Then another followed. They found us. Tessa hissed. Kill the generator, Hawk ordered. The laptop screen went dark instantly. They ducked behind the crates as the SUVs stopped about 30 yards away. Doors opened. Boots hit gravel. Voices carried faintly through the mist. Anna's pulse pounded in her ears. Hawk raised a finger to his lips. Silence. A familiar voice echoed across the yard. You didn't really think you could hide, did you? It was the man in the trench coat again, alive, unbroken, and smiling as though the night before had been a minor inconvenience. Behind him stood 6 men, all armed. He gestured toward the storage units. Bring her out. Anna's heart froze. They knew she was here. Hawk motioned for Snake and Tessa to flank the opposite sides. He leaned close to Anna. His voice a low whisper. If they want you, that means the files are more important than they let on. You stay down, no matter what happens. She nodded, shaking, clutching the laptop to her chest like it was her only lifeline. The trench coat man called again, louder this time. I don't want to hurt anyone. I just want what's mine. Give me the girl, and you can all walk away. A Hawk stood slowly, stepping out from behind the crate. You keep saying that. He called back. But somehow people keep getting hurt anyway. The man's smirk widened. You're wasting your time protecting her. You don't even know who she really is. Try me. The man stepped forward, his boots splashing in a shallow puddle. She wasn't just a bystander, Hawk. She was part of the cross-line shipments. She was the cargo. Anna's breath hitched. The man continued, his tone smooth, venomous. She doesn't remember because they erased her. Programmed her to forget. Her brother tried to undo it. That's why he took her. That's why he ran. Anna clutched her head, the words slamming into her like a physical blow. No, that can't be true. Hawk stepped closer, his expression cold. You're lying. Am I? The man said. Ask her why she doesn't have any records before 2018. Ask her why every hospital in the state has her file redacted. Anna's hands shook. I don't know what he's talking about, she said, but her voice cracked with fear. The man took one more step forward. Give her to me, Hawk. She's not yours to save. Hawk drew in a slow breath, then said, neither are you to take. The sound of engines roared to life again. But not from the SUVs. Behind them, from the far side of the yard, headlights appeared. Dozens of them. More bikes. Hawk's old chapter. Reinforcements. The trench coat man turned, his confidence flickering for the first time. Engines thundered through the fog as Hawk's reinforcements flooded into the freight yard. The morning mist lit up with the glare of headlights, cutting through the gray dawn like blades of fire. The roar of a dozen Harleys shook the ground, echoing against the steel walls of the abandoned warehouses. The trench coat man's composure finally cracked. His smirk vanished as he barked orders to his men. Gunfire broke the silence. Sparks flew as bullets ricocheted off metal. The smell of burnt rubber and gunpowder filled the air. Hawk's crew ducked behind crates, returning fire with precision and grit. Snake shouted over the chaos. 2 on the left. They're trying to flank us. Tessa sprinted low, sliding behind a rusted trailer, her eyes fierce and focused. She fired twice, dropping one of the attackers, then reloaded in a single smooth motion. They're not getting through, she snarled. Hawk moved like a man who'd done this before, controlled, lethal, calm under pressure. He fired once, hitting a tire, flipping one of the SUVs sideways with a screech of metal. The vehicle's alarm wailed, drowning beneath the chaos. Anna huddled behind a crate, clutching Luke's laptop to her chest, tears mixing with dirt and rain. She wanted to run, to scream, but she couldn't look away. Every sound, every flash of light, every cry pulled her deeper into a nightmare that no longer felt distant. The trench coat man shouted, "Take her alive! Forget the rest." Hawk heard it, and something in him snapped. He turned toward the man, rage hardening every movement. "You're not touching her." He charged through the chaos, ducking as bullets whizzed past, tackling the trench coat man to the ground. They hit the mud hard, rolling, fists flying. The man fought like a cornered animal, fueled by desperation. Hawk's knuckles split open, blood mixing with rain and grime. "You don't get to decide who she is," Hawk growled, pinning him down. The man spat, laughing through blood. "You think you're saving her? You're just delaying what's already coming." Before Hawk could answer, a flash of movement caught his eye. The man pulled a small blade from his sleeve and slashed upward. Hawk recoiled, the knife grazing his arm. Pain burned hot, but he stayed standing. Then came the sound. A low growl of an engine behind them. Anna looked up just in time to see one of the SUVs roaring forward, its front bumper aimed straight at Hawk. "Hawk! Move!" she screamed. He turned, eyes widening, but the vehicle was too close. At the last second, a black motorcycle tore across the yard, slamming into the SUV's side with a bone-shaking crash. The impact flipped the bike, sending both machines spinning in a shower of sparks. The rider, Tessa, was thrown hard into the mud, rolling to a stop near Anna. The SUV, smoking and mangled, hit a post and caught fire. "Tessa!" Anna cried, crawling to her. Tessa groaned, blood running down her temple. "Still here," she muttered weakly, trying to sit up. "Tell me I at least made it look cool." A Hawk rushed over, dragging her behind cover as the trench coat man staggered to his feet, his coat torn and face bleeding. "You can't stop it," he hissed. "The files won't matter. Crossline is bigger than you, bigger than her. You're fighting ghosts." Hawk looked at Anna. "Get the laptop. Now." Anna scrambled to her feet, fumbling with the computer. The screen flickered, still powered by the last spark of the generator's charge. She opened the drive, searching, her breath ragged. "There's something here. A failsafe," she gasped. "Luke encrypted it. Hey, he said if I found this, I'd know what to do." "Do it," Hawk urged. Her fingers flew over the keys. The program opened a series of files, videos, documents, hidden recordings of Crossline's operations. She found one labeled, Project Seraph. The name sent a chill through her. She opened it. On the screen, a man's voice spoke. Luke's voice. "Tor. If you're seeing this, Anna, it means I couldn't protect you. You were part of something they built to control people. But you're more than what they made you. You're free now. Don't let them take that from you. The drive will expose everything. Send it. End it." Anna's eyes filled with tears. Her brother's voice, calm and broken, echoed in her chest. "He knew," she whispered. "He knew everything." The trench coat man lunged toward her. Hawk intercepted him mid-swing, slamming him back into the dirt. "Not today," Hawk growled. Anna hit enter. The files uploaded automatically. Thousands of them. Shooting through an encrypted network Luke had set up years ago. On the laptop screen, a single message appeared. Upload complete. Transmission sent to all major news outlets. The trench coat man's scream tore through the air as he realized what she'd done. No. But it was too late. Moments later, the sound of sirens wailed in the distance. Not bot police this time, but real ones. The kind that answered calls from journalists and federal agents who'd just received undeniable proof of a criminal empire. Hawk grabbed Anna's arm. "We're done here. Move." The bikers regrouped quickly, helping Tessa to her feet as the yard began to light up with approaching lights. Blue and red flashing across the mist. The trenchcoat man, beaten and bloodied, dropped to his knees, staring blankly at the glowing horizon. "You don't even know what you've done," he whispered. Hawk looked back at him, jaw tight. "I know we gave her a chance." They mounted their bikes just as the first police cruisers turned into the yard. The sound of engines filled the morning air again, thunderous and free. Anna turned once. Watching the freight yard shrink behind them, her brother's words still echoing in her mind. By the time they reached the open highway, dawn had broken fully. The sun spilled gold across the wet asphalt, washing away the last traces of the night. Anna sat behind Hawk now, the wind in her hair, her heart still aching but lighter than it had been in years. "Where will you go now?" Hawk asked over the roar of the wind. She smiled faintly. "Wherever the road takes me." He nodded. "That's a good place to start." The convoy of bikes stretched across the highway, glinting under the morning light like a living river of chrome and steel. Behind them, the news was already spreading. Crossline freight exposed, national human trafficking operation, brought down by anonymous source. The world would never know her name, but Anna didn't need it to. Her brother's sacrifice, Hawk's protection, Tessa's courage. It had all led to this freedom. As the horizon opened before them, Hawk's voice cut through the wind one last time. "Let's ride." And with that, the engines roared louder, carrying them toward the sunrise. Away from the ghosts of their past, and into the light of something new. The diner, the storm,